So previously in part 1, I talked about the ethnic diversity in Africa and gave you Kenya as an example of ethnic conflicts in Africa, and that some people are urging to withdraw the African boundaries, African borders, in order to settle this kind of disputes. But the question being raised is whether withdrawing those borders are the means towards settling this sort of problems. Essentially, all these ethnic conflicts just spring from the sense that different ethnic groups that are being treated unequally within the same states. Some groups they've got better treatments. Some groups they don't, and that generated disputes and hatred. You know, how you distribute resources, or how you take care, or the importance you deem in the opinions of different ethnic groups in political considerations. The differences in these elements are going to determine whether there will be disputes in a state where different ethnic groups live. So there are states that do not take care of some ethnic groups' interests. Back in the days of OAU, Organization of African Union, OAU, they believe in the inviolability of boundaries. That means they want to stick to the what was decided as boundaries in the Berlin Act in 1884 and 1885. They just want to stick to those boundaries, which previously discussed in part 1 of the video were very arbitrarily drawn. And but the new concept in the global security agenda is that and as many scholars have suggested, you shouldn't take the boundaries as a very for granted. It's not the territorial bounding in a sense. It is the boundaries should be determined or respected only when there is responsible governance and efficient and sufficient delivery of provision to the people living or residing inside the boundaries. So as the responsibility to protect principal states, the sovereignty is necessarily the responsibility to protect the civilians. You know, if within a state, the state fails to protect its own civilians, then other states have the responsibility to take care of it, to protect the civilians in the failing or dysfunctioning states. That's what is about responsibility to protect. And so in Africa, people are worried or especially these people in power, they think sovereignty should not be infringed upon. But then, now we need a consensus, or we need a principle to rely on, like how or what criteria you need to have in order to withdraw the boundaries. Like the African Union, they have the African Union border program. They don't advocate, or they don't aim at withdrawing the African boundaries. Rather, they are trying to settle the border disputes. They're trying to have states negotiating with each other how to, allocate the resources in zones where, the ownership of resources are not very clear. Hi. But then the program relies upon the cooperation between states. So what I'm saying here is we can draw strength from the responsibility to protect principle. If a state in Africa fails to protect its people, or it seems to be not functioning anymore, and there's a clear ethnic dispute going on, then we can again draw strength from the African peer review. Like inside Africa as a whole, like other states, they can come together and to monitor each other about the performances of the other states in order to enhance or to promote good governance in the continent. If a state fails, then other states, based on some principle in law, then they can decide on when and how to settle these border issues. So, that's what my paper is about. It's to draw from the concept of responsibility to protect. I think the problem here is we giving too much power to the states. You cannot just rely on the states, how they can provide you as like playing the game, when the problem originates from the states, from the players. Then you cannot just tell the players like, you will settle it, will you? You need to have some guiding principle, some consensus, and something to rely on, so you can be a fair judge. You can have some authority to carry out. So the implications of this responsibility to protect thing, if applied in Africa, I think is to promote and stimulate good governance in Africa. Hopefully that will stimulate the politicians in Africa to better means to govern Africa. For example, multi-parties, giving more say to different ethnic groups, possibly to I'll do this in part 3 of the video. Sorry, I really don't like speaking in front of the camera with